and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode, I will be discussing the 2002 comedy 40 Days and 40 Nights, starring Josh Hartnett and directed by Michael Lehmann. Yeah, come to think about it, whatever happened to Josh Hartnett? He seemed to be all over the place back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and had even starred in the 2001 blockbusting epic Pearl Harbor. Then he just seemed to fade away. Anywho, so just before I start talking about the film, I just wanted to state that this review has been age restricted due to the potential content I may discuss. So I do try to keep all of my reviews as clean as possible, and so even the ones for R-rated movies, horrors, thrillers and such should, in the main, be suitable for all. However, there are a few films where the actual subject of the film or parts of its plot make it absolutely impossible not to discuss things which may not be suitable for younger viewers. So I'll err on the side of caution, basically. Oh, and this discussion will also contain a number of spoilers on this occasion. So, with this in mind, if you don't want any plot details about this film at all, please do switch off now. But otherwise, the movie is a comedy about sex. Well, technically the lack of. The film revolves around Josh Hartnett's character, Matt Sullivan, who has recently broken up with his last girlfriend, Nicole, as played by Vanessa Shaw, with whom he's still besotted. Searching for that emotional connection, once again, Matt goes through an endless cycle of meaningless sex with different women. It's made to appear that in the film the character is just absolutely irresistible to women, apparently. I don't think there's one woman in the film that hasn't made it appear as though she wants him. Which fails to work anyway. And just basically leaves him feeling empty with a reoccurring nightmare that a void is opening up in his life that can never be filled. No one can replace Nicole. Matt confides in his brother, as played by Adam Trez, who also so happens to be training to become a priest. In one moment on enlightenment, Matt comes up with the idea to abstain from sex and all sexually related situations for Lent, hence the 40 Days and 40 Nights. This is an effort to simplify his life and his relationships in a bid to finally get over Nicole. Matt is confident in his efforts and thinks it will be easy. His brother, not so much, and states that celibacy takes many years to come to terms with. His flatmate Ryan, as played by Paul Costanzo, if I've got that right, is equally as unsupportive once he hears Matt's plan, and is quite frankly bamboozled. Although, later in the film you do see him using the premise of celibacy as a chat-up line. So, go figure. Telling his flatmate is pretty much, it's just the stupidest thing Matt could have done, basically. But of course, this is where the main bulk of the comedy in the movie stems from. No sooner than telling his flatmate of his vow of celibacy, then basically the entire team at their place of work, which just so happens to be an internet tech firm, start a betting pool on the internet to see which day Matt will ultimately give up on celibacy. Soon enough, bets are coming in from all over the world. From here, antics ensue with his colleagues, which does seem a lot of them basically literally flinging themselves at him in what can only be described as a cheapening display, as they try in turn to lure Matt back to break his vow on the day each had tipped a bet in order to claim the ever-growing pool. Considering these are basically supposed to be his colleagues, and he has to work with them on a daily basis, some scenes are quite degrading, to be quite fair, and it's not even the Christmas works party. Who needs enemies when you've got friends like that, eh? And that's not even to mention his boss, Jerry, as played by Griffin Dunn, who's basically sex-starved and just comes across as pervy. Basically a tribunal waiting to happen. What actually happens, free of the shackles of sex, and is that Matt actually finds and starts falling in love with somebody else. Erica, as played by Shannon Sozeman. Apologies for the names if I'm getting them wrong. But basically, as they start to connect on a deeper emotional level. Towards the end of his stint, Matt ends up as a gibbering wreck. Obviously, he's never been married. No, I'm being unfair. I better backtrack on that just in case the wife sees this. One thing I did kind of find quite surprising was that although Matt makes it very close to the end of his vow, like 5 minutes or so, he is basically, it's fouled by none other than his ex, Nicole, who is now looking to cash in on the bet. The part I found surprising is basically the way in which it's done. She technically rapes him, having sex with him whilst he's asleep, which in my books, if not subject to prior agreement, which it wasn't, it's without knowledge and consent, and so therefore the very definition of rape. So okay, I doubt very much that the filmmakers thought about this as such at the time it was all done. Basically, it was done for comedic effect and, of course, shock value. But the scene didn't sit quite right for me in this kind of film. You know, I wasn't watching I Spit on Your Grave. I know why it was done and to what end, but it was the blasé way in which it was handled and the shrugged-off nature of what a traumatic event this could actually have been. And to perhaps make light of male rape as something which isn't to be taken seriously in the film. Hey, you know, we all want sex, right? Well, that might not be true. But not like that in any event. You know, not by a long shot. Male rape is a serious matter, and I was disappointed to see such a scene in the movie, to be quite frank. For me, the film isn't side-splittingly funny. Okay, so it has some good moments that do make you laugh, some that make you smile, but others that do make you cringe. Throughout the film, Josh Hartnett's character just pretty much comes across as either mopey for me, and basically there's plenty of douchebag moments with obvious orientation to a male audience, to be fair. The film does try to be a teen comedy of sorts in the ilk of others released around the same time, but in actual fact, it's probably just verging a little bit more adult than most. It does try to emulate a little of American Pie, particularly in one scene with Matt's family, which is analogous to the embarrassing scenes and talks in American Pie. But for me, it doesn't quite hit the spot, and does feel a little forced. That it basically had to be there to fit in with the genre. To be fair, nobody can do the embarrassing family situation comedy like Eugene Levy, who of course plays Jim's dad in the American Pie series. That said, there are a few tender moments within the film, sufficiently so that I think it just might make a decent date night movie. The movie has a decent enough soundtrack, with songs such as New Sensations by In Excess, Overload by the Sugar Babes, and Chemistry by Supersonic, setting the mood along the way quite well. There is enough comedy to keep it interesting and moving along at a fairly decent pace, so it is certainly worth a watch. Nothing too outstanding, but nonetheless entertaining. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks for watching. If you have, if you've liked the episode, please do leave a like. Please hit that subscribe button down there somewhere, I think. But otherwise, please do feel free to leave any comments that you feel fit. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope to see you again in another SciFirst Movie Talk review or one of our other episodes. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.